Hi, my name is Kurt, and this is Simple Shop Creations. And in this video, I'm going to go through the steps on how I engrave these small cutting boards. So with that, let's get rolling. So here, you open up LightBurn, and I already have a grid pattern that I will, as I saved as a template, that I will put upon or over this so I can align my cutting board properly on my laser spoil board. So let's go ahead and open that up first, and it's this file, and now I have my grid, and this grid, like I said before, is burned onto my spoil board of my Ortur laser. Now I did do a video on how I made this grid pattern in LightBurn and also burning it into the spoil board of the laser engraver. And there will be a link at the end of this video, an end card. You just need to click on it and boom, you can see how I did this particular grid pattern. Now I use the term template. In this case here, they like to use the word tool. So in other words, what that basically means is it won't be burnt into your piece that you're engraving. So I just use the term template, but I don't know why to use tool, but whatever. So let's continue on to create a simulated cutting board on this grid pattern. So we go back to the cutting board here, or boards here, and we need to figure out the dimensions here. So we know this is 12 inches from black hard walnut to walnut to walnut, and we know this is 8 inches for the lighter colored board here, or hard maple. So we want to know what the dimensions of this hard maple is, and since I built the boards, I already know what that is. So it's 8 inches from the flat part, since I got a round over here, to 8 inches to the other flat part on the other side. And it's 9 5/16 of an inch wide. So what we're going to do on the grid behind here is we're going to create this center portion of the cutting board on the grid pattern. So let's go ahead and do that now. So the first thing is we want to create a square. So we select the square, put it here, and just put it there in the middle. Now before I go ahead and continue on with this, let's go over to the right side here, and you see here this column says show. Let's hide this grid. So there we go. See it? No you don't. You see it? No you don't. So that's all you need to do. Next, we're going to create the dimensions. Make sure it's unlocked. Make sure this is unlocked. And we know that the width is 9 5/16, which in decimals equals 9.3125. I hope. Hit enter. And we know the width, or in this case here, they're calling it the height. It's 8, and hit enter. So now we have this, right? All right. Let's go back to the select tool. And I'm going to make this a tool or a template for this drawing. So I'm going to select T, and now I have a template. Now the next step is I want to show my grid, and I'm going to move this to a certain portion on the grid here. I'm just going to line it up already, and then we're going to proceed with doing the letters, creating the letters. So let's go ahead. And grab the center one here. And it's going to be, I'm going to put it down to the 4x2 mark. Select away, and it looks like there. So my cutting board will be placed at the 4, and then now over 2 on the spoil board. And later on, you'll see how I do this on the actual laser. So this continue on with the video as we now create the W here. So let's go ahead and hide grid pattern, and let's select the characters and type it in there. We're going to put in W. Now since I already did this before, I know what font I want and the approximate size that I need. Now before you go ahead and start burning all this stuff into your actual product that you're going to sell, you want to practice first and maybe ask somebody around you to say, is this character good? Does this look good? This looks about the right size. And all, I get a couple different opinions before you go ahead and actually do your final burn. And I did that. You can see here, I did a couple W's, and this is how I figured out what font I want. Also, you can figure out what font you want before even burning. So the burning here is just basically what size I want to put onto the cutting board. And we go over here, a couple more. And another reason why you want to do a practice board, in this case here, this scrap piece, this is the actual scrap piece of the same wood. This is hardwood, maple hardwood. You want to make sure you check your spelling. So you see here I have a problem with my spelling. We go back and it's been corrected. So make sure you practice first by actually doing your actual product. And I believe this is the size I selected. I think this is like the 3-inch size. So let's go back to LightBurn, and now we have this. So let's go ahead and choose our font, and the font I'm going to choose here is Gabriola. I don't know. And now we're going to increase the size. I know the size is going to be approximately 3.05. Enter. Now notice this is still a tool, so we don't want to make that a tool anymore. We actually want to make it, because this is the portion we want to burn. So I'm just going to go ahead and click here, and now I made it the burning piece. So this will be burnt and the tools won't be. So let's go ahead and bring this down here to the corner here. Now on my cutting boards, we look at them again, they're round over. So we have to bring it up a bit. So you can use your mouse to drag it around a little bit, but I found there's a couple easy ways you can do it. One, you can just hit the up arrow key and you can see how much it moves, right? So that's just hitting the up arrow key. So if you hit the shift key, watch how much bigger of a move you get. All right, now if you hit the control key, you get little bit ones, and that's what I'm using here. I held down the control key, I'm bringing this up a little bit, and I'm hoping this would probably look okay, and there we are good. Now you can see here we have our template or tool. Let's bring in the grid. Now we know where to line it up on our spoil board, and this is almost done. The next step here is, so this, as you can see here, I used speed of 2000 and 65% burn, or strength of burn, and I'm using offset filled. So it won't. So when the laser starts, it won't go back and forth. It'll actually follow the pattern. But you'll see that a little later on in the video where I actually show me burning or engraving the cutting boards. So I only did one pass here. So you only see I only have one. I only set for one pass, because if you don't move the board, and honestly, this laser seems to be quite accurate, because when you redo it again, to me, from my point of view, it hasn't moved. It always came back to the same burning spot, and it always burned within the same guidelines of the initial first burn. So you can do that, and if you feel like you want to burn it some more, you can reduce your speed, you can increase your speed, reduce your power, and then burn it again, but don't hit your laser or move cutting board to where it was, or whatever you're engraving, to where it was on the grid pattern. So try to leave that as possible, and then you can just reburn it again if you don't like the initial burn. So we're going to hit cancel on that. So now we have the first one done. We're going to go ahead and save it, and we're just going to call it W-board. And boom, now it's saved. Now let's go on to the next one. The next one here is going to be this Olympic transportation words. And so we're going to go in here. Now we can just keep this here. I'm just going to go ahead and move this up. Again, I know what font this is because I played around with it. Asked a couple people what font they prefer, and the Arial font and this size here was preferred. So let's go ahead and redo that. So we're going to go down. We're going to bring this down to, memory serves me right, it's about 0.25. You might have to mess around with it a little more. And then just bring this Arial down. And my office phone is ringing. I hope you hear that. And let's start typing. Let's click that. Now this time here, let's see if we can spell it right the first time. And we got to get rid of that W there. So let's click off of this. Let's get rid of the grid pattern. And let's zoom in a little bit here. And now let's click the select tool and let's click away. So that looks okay. All right, so I'm going to highlight this. Now we're going to snap this into the center. It should snap it. There we go. So snapped into the center. So here, again, we can see that we have it's positioned at the 657 mark, and it's approximately 8 inches over, right? So it's approximately 8 inches up, and somewhere around this 6.5 here is the center. So what we want to do is we want to bring this down here, and we can see here, was it? So let's just do a 4, and let's see if it pops down here. So I'm going to change the Y position. We're going to hit delete 4, and let's see there. So that actually brings us down to there. So now we can hit our control key and up arrow key to bring it up. And let's see here. And let's give them, so that probably is about right. I'm going to bring it up one more, and then there. And now we have Olympic Transportation all set up on the small cutting board on the hard maple portion of the cutting board. So now we're going to go ahead and save this because it's a new one, and then we're going to do OLY, and now we're going to save. Now, before we go over to the laser engraver, I want to go through a couple things here. So as you can see here, you can hide and hide. So now you'll just have the Olympic Transportation here. But when you go to preview, right, when you go to preview your or frame, it will frame the big one here. It will frame this. It will not frame this if you hide it. So what you have to do is over next to it, you see where it says frame and frame? You want to unselect, unselect. So you can sit there and have it shown, and then you unselect frame, frame, and then when you go to frame, it will just frame this. Okay, so just remember that. If you don't want this whole thing framed, you have to shut it off. And then, of course, again, you can hide it and hide it. But normally what I do is, before I go ahead and burn this, I like to have my cutting board here, there, and well, we're good to go here. So remember, if you don't want to frame any of these tools, or what I call like using a template, just uncheck the frame button here and you're good to go. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and move over to the actual burn process, and I'm going to show you, before we actually go to the burn, how I set up the grid. And it's already set up for these cutting boards, so I'll just explain what I did. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here you can see how I set it up. I used blue tape trick to temporarily hold the two pieces of wood in place in a right angle here. So the blue tape trick is simple. 2 pieces of blue tape, one on the spool board and one on the board itself, and put some CA glue or super glue, crazy glue, whatever you want to call it, and then just tack it down. Now this L configuration is on the line that you saw in the grid that I was making prior to this, where it's at 4 and 2, and I'll show a close up here in a second so you can get a better idea how I set it up. So here you can see where I lined up the horizontal board there. It's at the corner of the 4 and 2, where the 4 being the horizontal line there in front of you, and the 2 mark on the grid is the vertical line. So what now I'll do is I'll just take the cutting board and I will line up the hard maple portion to it, to that corner there, and the walnut will be more to the left of that corner. So I line up the hard maple right to that point. So here on the spoiler board is a scrap piece of hard maple, which I'm going to test my lettering on to see how it comes out. Now, as this is being etched into the wood, once I'm done with that, you'll see that I'll take the scrap piece and I will bring it up to the camera here so you can see what I etched into or engraved into the hard maple, and that should be coming up here in a few seconds. So let's just hang on here and wait for it. So here it is. You can see that it etched to me okay. Now just wait a second here. I'm going to bring it back into the camera view because you're going to see the mistake that I made prior to that, and then I redid the etching and corrected it, as you can see from here. And now I'm going to take the actual piece of wood that I want to etch in, and you can see where I lined it up as I showed you in the picture, right there on the edge of that horizontal board. And then we're going to fire up the laser again, and we'll be done with this. I have to do 3 boards with the Olympic name on it, and then 1 board with that big W, which will be coming up here in a second. So let me go ahead and speed this video up. So here I'm going to show you my scrap board of multiple W's that I did to get the size that I wanted, and I believe it's just a little over 3. And then once I throw it in the scrap pile, now we're going to go ahead and start to etch or engrave the W there on the left bottom corner of the cutting board, and we'll start here in a second, and I will speed it up to get the process done quicker. So here we go. Alright, so we're coming up to the end of the video here where the W is now done, and you can see now the W has been engraved. And with that, I hope you guys have yourself a healthy and wonderful day. Until the next video.